Oh, hello, and welcome to Al Dente Rigamortis. I'm Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the gamer in yellow.
And we're here to discuss those internet stories, most creepy and most pasta, and be critically silly doing it. It's that time of year again, Ichor Fall. And we're doing Victoria. Wait, that sounded really bad.
We're not. I didn't sign up for this.
We're covering. We're discussing Victoria.
There you go. That's
there
more
we
better.
go. Whoa. So yeah, we're doing Ichor Fall again because there are still some Ichor Fall stories to cover, and the ones we're going to be covering for this month of September are going to be the submitted ones or the submitted stories by fans of Ichor Falls to the Ichor Fall community website. So I guess we will dive into this one. So Victoria is by Chase Henderson. It was posted August 10th, 2009, and is on the Ichor Falls website, ichorfalls.com. So you can check it out there if you'd like before you listen to us, or you can just listen to our rundown and go from there.
Was his name Chase Henderson?
Yeah, Chase Henderson.
It's almost Larry Henderson.
I know.
The character that I made just out of the top of my head, just to name a person.
Or Harry Henderson from Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah, of course.
Weird.
That's name.
So, onto the rundown. There's this popular urban legend among the students of the mortuary school about a student getting drunk, getting locked in a morgue, and being autopsied alive by mistake. Anyway, our protagonist, Victoria, is looking at a body at her county morgue job and noting that it's been used several times while also daydreaming a little creepiness regarding the corpse. The on-site pathologist snaps her out of it and has her set up the iPod music to begin the autopsy. However, as he cuts open the body, blood begins splattering and spilling out of the corpse. The pathologist moves back as the body begins screaming. Victoria, almost in a daze, walks over and picks up the shears and continues cutting open the body. She finishes the job, gore and all, as the body finally falls silent. The pathologist tries to calm her down, but gets knocked back as well. Victoria then begins clawing at her protective gear, unable to breathe, before falling over the body on the table. And that's where we end. So, yeah, that's the rundown.
You understood more of it than I did.
I had to look at the story a couple of times because there was some very glaring issues I have with it, but I will get to that with my rundown or my actual thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess we will move on to someone's favorite segment, I'm sure, I hope, maybe. The Grammar Inquisition. Because everyone tolerates it now.
At this point.
Yeah. Y'all thought I was going to do our regular thing. No, we're done.
That's our new version 2 intro for the Grammar Inquisition.
Yes. We're moving on to season 2, finally, of Al Dente Rigamortis, where we have, like, new segment zingers and such.
Totally.
God.
Or not.
Yeah.
Not at all.
No, not at all. So, anyway, the favorite urban legend of the mortuary school was the drunken student in the morgue. So, this might just be a really nitpicky thing, but I think I would have said a favorite urban legend of the mortuary school was the drunken student in the morgue. Like, it just feels like, I don't know, like the favorite versus a favorite. I don't know.
It's like if it's a favorite, there's multiple that everyone likes, but it's because it's the favorite. They're saying that this is everyone's favorite myth.
Yeah, this is why I put it into like nitpick. It's just like I felt this might be better, but I again, take it or leave it.
You're not allowed in the nitpick nook right now.
Okay.
At least for this one.
I'm like clawing at the like no.
No.
All right, on to the next one. Sure, it's odd he has no tags, but what the hell? It's not like we have an overabundance of cadavers. So the first thing is, I feel like there should be a comma after what the hell to kind of help differentiate that a little bit, because it just kind of goes right into the next thing. Also, overabundance is a compound word, and I didn't realize that until I had this copy pasted onto Google Docs. But apparently, overabundance is a compound word. And on to my next one. Victoria felt the ridges of the staples in the cadaver. In the cadavers, though the fingers of her latex gloves. Oh, through
the fingers.
God damn it. Through the fingers of her latex gloves. So yeah, just remove that one of those in those, because unless you want to do like in the ... in the cadaver, like she's stuttering for some reason, but like otherwise no, get rid of it.
But it's also not. There's no dialogue here. So.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, it's yeah. The next one here. Another hand wrapped in latex wrenched her hand away from the body. I believe you want wrenched her hand away from the body.
No, it vomited on her hand.
Yeah, the latex hand just vomited onto her. Yeah.
Makes sense to me.
Yeah, clearly. The next one here. There was an audible pop like a circuit had been broken. I believe you want to replace at with had.
Or was broken.
Oh, just like the circuit, as it popped like a circuit was broken. That I don't know. That I don't think that makes that much more sense.
There was an audible pop like a circuit was broken.
I guess, but I think
Is that bad?
to me, when I read that, like when I read it that way, it doesn't sound right to me. I don't know.
They say the same thing. It's past
tense
and it happened.
I don't know. Like, yeah, either or. In this case, I think like had been broken, was broken. One just uses one less word.
Yeah, I got places to be. Gonna cut down my word count.
Wow. All right, moving on to the next one. The everyday implements that could dismantle a human in minute. I believe you just want to add an S at the end of minute, so it's in minutes, not in minute, or in a minute, maybe.
Yeah.
So man, that is some fast. That is some fast disassembling or dismantling of a human. That's where you go to mortuary school, so you can like learn to like disassemble a human being in less than a minute.
60 seconds.
Like, all right, guys, you have 60 seconds and go.
Yeah.
It's like that's the mortuary school triathlon. Like one of the things you have to do is like you have to run over after you've shot the man or shot the person and killed them. You then have to use shears to disassemble them in less than 60 seconds.
You shoot them, then you bring them over to like the table and you like drain out all their fluids and the shit that they do, and then you have to drag them to the next table and disassemble their body parts.
Yep. Clearly,
because it has to be 3 parts, right?
Yeah, and the person in the body, the person who gets like killed in the triathlon are the people who are failing in class.
Yeah.
Oh man, mortuary school's brutal.
Mm-hmm.
All right, here's one that tickled me a little bit when I read it. Get her away from the cadaver when he first plunged the tip of the snipers right above the groin.
Your snippers.
Yeah, it's supposed to be snippers. It's just missing a P.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought you said it wrong.
No, I read it as the story was as it was in the story.
Oh, they are snipers.
Snipers right above the groin.
He just has a sniper rifle. He's just like poking it right above the groin.
Yep.
Okay.
And then on to the next one. They would bite along the line of stitches, swiftly chomping through sinew and the rib cage. And to this, I feel like there should be a comma between Stitches and Swiftly. Like, they would bite along the line of Stitches, comma, swiftly chomping through sinew and the rib cage.
Yep.
Just to kind of help create just a slight pause, just so you can catch your breath as you're going through the sentence.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's this sentence, my last one. She could have sworn she saw the slight heave of the cadaver's chest. I think you need of between heave and the. So it would be, she could have sworn she saw the slight heave of the cadaver's chest. Just because, like, yeah, get like, oh no, it's breathing. Oh god.
Yes.
But yeah, that's my grammar inquisitions. Mikey, the E stands for evil.
Well, you got a bunch of them that I had. But I have some front oars.
My god. All right.
You should really be oaring from the middle, because if you're just oaring from the front, like it puts the boat at a weird balance.
Very fast. Yeah. And if you go from the back, it's not that very good either.
Yeah.
So onto without a paddle. We're just making up segments this time, Ralph. We're rebranding whole segments this time. So
I mean, this is the first ever front oar segment. So
yeah. So on to without a paddle, an oar story. Take it away, Mikey.
Or during. Or the rigid stone of rigor mortis. Finn.
Oh. Wow. There was going to be at least 3.
Yeah. That's hardly a story, Mikey.
Well, I have an it story to follow up.
Okay.
Oh,
yeah, okay. It's an it story?
Yeah, it's just an it story.
And now, an it story with Mikey, the E stands for evil. Take it away.
It lacked the smooth elasticity of her own. It was something that only happened to grandparents and pets. It changed from hobby to career when a Pinkerton ran a charger through a coal picket line. It was just the smell. It's alive. It's alive! Finn.
Wow.
Amazing.
Mm-hmm. Just add in some snaps here. There we go. Yeah.
So the whole thing was just about a smell, and the smell being alive, apparently. It's like a sentient smell. Smell.
That would definitely qualify as a creepypasta horror.
Yeah.
Somebody trying to make a smell alive and like try to eat somebody. Yeah.
Anyway, that's all I have for grammar.
Alrighty then. So on to the grammar in highlighted yellow.
Yep, that's it. My first one is just a bunch of tiny sentences that could be connected together.
Okay.
I think it happened 3 times actually, so I'll just list them off. He and some friends go rabble-rousing in town. Period. They get back to the campus completely sloshed. Period. I feel like it should just be he and some friends go rabble-rousing in the town, comma, and get back to the campus completely sloshed.
Yeah.
It's about the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then he nodded towards the other side of the room. Period. Maybe it was a charitable act. Period. Get her away from the cadaver when he first plunged the tip of the snipers. Ha ha ha. Period. So that could be combined into he nodded towards the other side of the room. Period. I didn't bother changing that. But the other two combined to maybe it was a charitable act, comma, to get her away from the cadaver. Blah 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 blah.
Yeah, it is kind of weird that like it's weird that it starts with get her away from the cadaver.
Yeah.
Like get her. Like it's like I don't know. Like even when I read that for the grammar inquisition, it was like that's such a weird like start of a sentence because it like
The only way you can start a sentence like that is if it's in dialogue. Because it's someone telling someone to get someone.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, because I almost wondered, like, when I read it, in my mind I was like, did I just like copy like part of a sentence? Like, did I like not get the first part of the sentence?
Yeah, that happens a lot.
So yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like that, adding the like combining the first little short sentence to that kind of helps give context to that
For
a
sure.
little bit better. So
There's too many tiny sentences.
yeah.
Speaking of, here's two more. She pondered if there was even anything recognizable left inside, period. If the cadaver's internals were pumped from the frequent demonstrations, period. So it's two tiny sentences talking about the same thing, put a comma in between.
Yeah.
It would be, she pondered if there was even anything recognizable left inside, comma. If the cadaver's internals were pumped, blah, 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 blah.
Yeah. For sure.
Then my last combined grammar-related discrepancy is she hit play on the docked iPod, period. Mozart streamed from the speakers, period. Again, two tiny sentences talking about the same thing. So she hit play on the docked iPod, making Mozart stream from the speakers.
Yeah, it's almost like jot note form kind of writing.
Yeah, these sections, it's literally like they just wrote down jot form of what they wanted to convey, and then they just clicked it together, without adding any adjoining words.
Either that, or it's falling into that pitfall that horror sometimes does, where they try to like they use the very short sentences to kind of like accentuate a certain thing, or like, but like for some reason in this story, in this story, it's not working because it's like she's like emphasizing the wrong thing, or she's emphasizing things that don't really have that much of an impact.
Yeah, like for example, that last one, that was during Victoria just walking over and turning on an iPod. Like there's no danger, there's nothing exciting happening at that point. There's no reason to make it jot form and like that,
Yeah, it's like the true horror of Mozart.
Mm-hmm.
Now, this isn't some Eric Zahn like music that'll send you into the other world or something. It's Mozart. It's classical music that honestly generally plays when or is very, at least in media, is very common to be played in mortuaries or in morgues. Like while somebody's working.
It would have been less creepy, but way more hilarious if it was like put on like Britney Spears or something for them to work with.
Well, I think the reason they'd use like classical music is because it's more soothing. Like it's more like kind of like calming. So like they don't want like fast paced stuff while they're working on a corpse.
Yeah, I guess.
or things with like sudden like drops or drops of beats or really fast like or crescendos and stuff. They want something that's like more soothing as they work.
Yeah,
kind of thing. Because it's like, because you know that I'm toxic. Just like as they're like cutting through the staples, but like really sharply. Or they're doing his beats too fast, so he's like cutting through the it's a lot more sloppy.
Yeah. Or it's like fucking like Skrillex and like everything's like calm and then all of a sudden the bass drops. It's like, and then all of a sudden everything gets ripped apart. It's like, oh shit.
Yeah, or like he's just like he's working until he drops the bass and he's like, Gah!
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the last two, this one part I don't think should be plural, but correct me if I'm wrong. Victoria felt the ridges of the staples in the, I'll get rid of the correction, in the cadavers through the fingers of her latex gloves, period. A big cross on the man's chest, period. So there's only one cadaver here, but it says in the cadavers.
Oh yeah, that is weird. Wait, okay, yeah. Could you repeat that first sentence there again?
Victoria felt the ridges of the staples in the cadavers through her fingers of her latex gloves.
Yeah, because at this point, and moving forward, there's only one cadaver on the slab.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then this last one, I think needs a little bit of confirmation and restructure. There's a dare to streak through the campus and go into the morgue, period. His friends bar the door, comma, and he passes out on the slab, unable to get back out. Like, it's just kind of jumping through the events. Like there's a dare to streak through the campus. Well, I'll just read my restructure. There is a dare to streak. There is a dare to streak through the campus and go into the morgue. Period. He accepts, but as he enters the morgue, his friends bar the door. Unable to get back out, he passes out on the slab.
Yeah.
like just a little
Yeah,
bit more in there, because it's saying that there's a dare, but it doesn't say that this dude even accepted it.
I mean, you can
But
kind of
he's
assume
already-
that, but we all know what assuming means sometimes.
Yeah. Like, yeah, there's just too much missing, because there's a dare there, but it doesn't show he accepts it at all. And then all of a sudden, he's just immediately in the morgue with the door locked behind him. There's no
Yeah.
flow of it, you know?
Yeah.
And that is it for my grammar in yellow.
All right. So on to actual thoughts then. So I'm just going to start with this one here. So this, like, the story has like some that ghost story, or the urban legend has some dark connotations to it, but it's also kind of funny. And we get to this sentence here. In the funny ones, he's ousted by the gasps and pointing of female students at his erect penis. In the dark ones, no one even notices.
His erect penis.
I think it's supposed to be in reference to the fact that he's alive, not
the fact that he's
but all I can think of, like you just brought up, is that no one noticed his erect member. It sort of stifles the dark, like the foreboding of the foreboding tone of this outcome.
Yeah.
Versus the it's like like yeah, like
it needs more context.
Maybe get rid of those ellipses at the end of that, and just say like no one ever notices that he's alive.
Yeah,
so that
exactly.
So that we can get so we don't immediately go to the previous sentence about the erect penis.
So you don't assume the wrong thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Do not make an ass out of you and me.
Mm-hmm.
Even though that's really funny, because that's like it just. And then I have here's my first big like kind of continuity error in this story, or the confusion that I had with some continuity of the story. So, it changed from hobby to career when a Pinkerton ran a charger through a coal picket line.
Yep.
And so I was like, oh, so we're in an older era. Okay, like maybe like turn of the century kind of thing. Okay, that might have been handy to know a little bit sooner. But then we get this.
I don't.
Hang on.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
Okay. Yeah. But then later we get to this. She hit play on the docked iPod. Mozart streamed from the speakers. Wait. Okay, so we're in the modern day? All right. Then why did you bring up the Pinkertons? Like, when I think of Pinkertons, I think of turn of the century, like, federal agents. And like the charger, and like the I thought was actually like a horse or something like that, and then the coal picket line I thought was like people going and getting coal from like from somewhere or something like that. Like I honestly was very confused in the first part of the story as to like what time period we were at.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah.
However, I did not have any confusion because
Okay.
it was just immediately explained to me. Because Pinkerton is it's another word for like detective. So it could be just the narrator using a flowery word for a detective. Charger is a Dodge Charger.
That's yeah.
And a coal picket line is just a coal picket line.
See, I like the Pinkerton thing is the biggest issue is like maybe don't use that word because while it is technically a detective word, it is also very
time locked,
anachronistic. Like Pinkerton security, like Pinkerton's event, like in the modern day, they're not actually detectives. They are, but they're more of a security. Like Pinkerton, like the name Pinkerton in modern day setting is not a descriptor anymore. It is a brand name for a security firm, like a basic, not for a detective or for like somebody trying to solve a mystery.
Okay, but regardless, it doesn't matter the profession of the person that was driving the Charger. It could have been a private security company driving the Dodge Charger that hit some dudes. It's the same outcome.
That's fair. Yeah.
This person doesn't need to be a detective. They're just called a Pinkerton. So whether or not that means the old school detective Pinkerton thing or the private security like you just mentioned, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, it does kind of, because I'm actually on your I'm on the opposite end of that I'm usually on, where I'm like confused as to like what's going on. So I think like a different naming or a different like word than Pinkerton might help me or help people like me
Yes,
like
for
figure
sure.
this out. Like I think we just need to replace that word. As much
I
as I
agree.
like the word, as much as I like the use of like an older word for something, to me it was very confusing. Like for the setting, and like that's kind of what like the majority of my stuff here was like, what? Where the fuck are we? When are we?
It feels out of place because the entirety of the story isn't written in old timey.
Yeah,
Like maybe this character that's writing the story is in the modern day, but they speak old timey because they're eccentric or whatever. Then
because they're
fine,
into balls.
yeah, that too. But it's not, so it's an outlier and
Yeah.
weird.
Yeah.
Also, the second part that I had a problem with that sentence or string of sentences is when it goes, it changed from hobby to career when a Pinkerton did these things. Like, why did it make a career for her that she watched some dude run into a line of picketers?
Yeah,
Why
that's
was
the,
she like,
other thing I'm
she
trying to think
sees
of.
that
It's
car
like,
crash happen and she's like, I'm going to be a mortician. Just immediately.
I know my hobby. I know what I want to be. Oh, maybe like okay, so it's just it is a very weirdly worded like sentence itself, because I think what it's trying to get is that her fascination with death became her career path when she saw a detective approach a crime scene at this coal picket line area. And she like basically saw that people can do that as a living, like you can like forensics and stuff like that, right? But the way it's written, it's so weird because it's like she decided to take a career in mortician because some detective dude like crashed his car into some people.
Yeah.
Like yeah,
She witnessed all that death and she's like, I love death way too much. I'm going to be a mortician.
I found my kink.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah, it's so weird. Like, yeah, I really feel like this sentence needs to be reevaluated and perhaps a few more words added in to like kind of elaborate on how her hobby went to career because of a Pinkerton in a Charger running through a coal picket line. Like,
yeah,
there needs a few more words are needed. I think is what both of us are trying to get across here.
yeah. Like because this is mentioned, it's assumed that this is an important enough moment in the character, and it has some sort of connection to the story. But there's so little words used to describe it that it's you don't get much out of it.
Yeah, we're getting an out of context problem, or like that. Like we're having an out of context problem here, because there's not enough in this sentence to give us context as to what's going on. Like I can glean, like I can postulate what's going on, but if reading it at surface value, you're just like, what the fuck does this mean?
I don't know about you. Like I postulate most of my day already. I don't need to postulate while I'm reading creepypastas as well.
I mean, I like doing that because it's my favorite thing, but
I too enjoy postulating. Hence why I fill most of my day with postulating, as I said.
Yeah.
But there's words on the paper. I should just be able to have the information, especially when it's something that they're not trying to hide or nothing.
Mm-hmm. And I agree with you on this in this case, because like just tell us like what it is. Like I don't need this isn't a poem. I don't need to analyze it for its meaning. Yeah. Like it's a story. Like tell me a story and make it make sense.
Mm-hmm.
It's the difference between stories and poetry. Is poetry is generally like up to interpretation and allows the reader to meditate on the words and the verses, while also appreciating the language and the descriptions, whereas stories are supposed to tell you a story.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mikey, would you like to get in on this this fascinating analysis?
Eventually.
Okay.
So, 10 minutes from now, we're going to chime in on this segment. We're just talking.
I'm just saying, we're here. If you have anything on this particular section of the story, you may want to bring it up now.
Which section was it again?
The Pinkertons running the Charger through the coal picket line, and the weirdness of how that made it a career for her.
Yeah, I don't have anything to really say about that.
Cool.
It was odd for a line, but yeah.
Okay. Moving right along then, I guess. So this is actually my last thing, and it's actually right at the very end. The pathologist laid a dripping red hand on her shoulder. She knocked him flat on the ground when she withdrew the scissors. She was suffocating. She tore her face mask loose and shredded her apron. She widened the neckline on her scrubs. She still couldn't breathe. She clawed at her bare white neck before collapsing on the slab. And that's
She still couldn't breath, by the way.
Oh, is it say breath?
Yeah, it says breath. I just realized that.
Oh God, you're right. Knock that onto the. Yeah, there's supposed to be an E at the end of that, isn't there?
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and this is like, we're hitting like basically the climax, and then it just ends. Like, and I'm just like, wait, that's the ending? Like, you couldn't have kept going to tie up that perhaps this was all some kind of hallucination or vision that she had. Maybe she blacked out and woke up to find that she had killed the pathologist, and that was where all the blood and screaming was from. The corpse was actually fine and still on the slab. Or maybe the body is some supernatural entity from the turn of the century, and that's why she was getting like thoughts of Pinkertons and such as she played around with the corpse, like with her finger and stuff. Otherwise, like, this segment is very confusing, like how it just like ends the way it does. Like, there's definitely room for improvement or a continuation of this ending, to give it at least some semblance of sense. There's like, for me, there's open endings to a story that make you think after they've like dropped the bomb on it, or dropped the bombshell, or like dropped the mic and stuff like that. And then there's just no end to a story, which is this.
Yeah, the difference is you're talking about endings. This doesn't have an ending. This has a stop.
Yeah. Like, okay, so
the
like
story stops. It doesn't end.
My example for like an open story, and spoilers for Sleepaway Camp, where the movie ends with Angela having killed her love interest and being revealed, like giving off this creepy scream sound as like the rest of the campers, or the rest of the camp counselors come by, and we get their revelation that Angela was a boy the entire time, and then it literally ends there, with her like horrid like screaming face, and the credits start rolling, and it leaves you to postulate, what the fuck did I just watch, and stuff like that. And but with this story, it's slightly different in that, like, it just, like, what the hell did we just like, it's I want to know more. Whereas that one had more of a conclusion versus this.
Hey, you don't need to know more with Sleepaway Camp. You understand everything.
Yeah.
You're not left confused. You're like, oh, okay, it all makes sense now.
Yeah, there's more.
It's like, oh, okay, nothing makes sense now.
Exactly. Like, there's way more like context, and there's development in the story prior to the reveal at the end of that movie. Versus this, where there's a lot of confusion in the story, and there's not a lot said in the story as to like why thing, or like even hints as to what's going on. And like it leaves me to like what like try and come up with like why did all this happen? And like, I'm coming up with like 100 or like a dozen different things, like, again, like hallucinations or some kind of like weird visions that she has, or like she blacked out and like killed the pathologist, or the body is some kind of like supernatural thing, and so that's why it came back to life or something. I just don't know. Like, and was that like, is that like, it also the urban legend at the beginning, its connective tissue to this is like super thin. Like, there is a connective tissue in that they opened up a body, and it turned out to like react to that. But it seemed like this body was just a body, like just a corpse and had been used several times over. So there was no chance of it being alive. I don't know. She even like points out the differences between her living tissue and its dead tissue. Like, so there was no room for error that this this body was still living. This ending and most of the story, it really just kind of confused me as to like how it was connecting to one another. So
Yeah. My take on that was that there was sort of two stories. There's the urban legend, which is the first two paragraphs, and then there's the Victoria story.
yeah, like Victoria was. Yeah, we get that part, and then it's like, anyway, moving on to Victoria's. Victoria's working at her morgue job, away from the mortuary school. And it's like, oh, okay, I guess that's the connective tissue. Is she
And
just
that would be better if it was even phrased like that,
right? Or like that's what she was daydreaming about the that urban legend that she remembers from school while she was looking at the corpse, like. But we don't really, nothing of that's not really said or brought up. It's just something that we have come up with by ourselves.
Yeah. For me, the ending felt like I was watching a documentary about, like I started watching like the first 5 minutes of a documentary about some creepy thing to do with morgues, and then I got bored of it, and then immediately switched over to CSI. Like a completely different story, but kind of related.
and then your dad came in and asked you if you could help him with something. So you you paused or turned it off and just never went back to it.
Yeah. Actually, that's 100% it.
Like right at the part where where one of the characters like gets like, or it's like the mid credit or like the commercial scene or something like that, and you just never came back to it, so you never got to finish what happened.
100%. That's exactly what it felt like.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, that's my actual thoughts. A state of confusion, really. Mikey, D stands for evil.
All right, let's see here. So I've already talked about how the urban legend at the beginning and the Victoria story seem to be completely different. So my first point here is taking a step back and not focusing on the cadaver. This mortuary school is actually a school for monsters.
Oh, I'm not gonna lie. When I heard mortuary school, I did kind of go with like a more gothic, like Hogwarts, or like a more like a necromancer school.
All right,
yeah.
So I'll start with the pathologist.
Mm-hmm.
So the pathologist cocked a perfectly manicured eyebrow at her. So manicures manicure fingers and fingernails.
No. Mikey. Yeah. But manicures can mean like you can have a manicured eyebrows. Like it's something you can go to a spa and get your eyebrows like groomed and trimmed and stuff like that.
Going outside and cutting the grass and like trimming
manicured
the bushes,
lawns.
that's manicuring the lawn.
Yeah. It's if you're, I mean, obviously Mikey wants to be critically silly here.
Oh, okay. Be critically silly, then haha. If he wasn't sure.
Yeah, I hope that's the case.
Yeah, I'm being critically silly here.
Okay. We worry about you sometimes, Mikey.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going the monster route here. Did you not pay attention to that? So
I did,
but that's so normal. It's hard to notice that it's critically silly anymore.
So basically, his eyebrows are made out of fingers.
Haha. I guess.
All right.
I mean, I can kind of see that creepy visual of just like a single finger, just like attached from the base of the finger on your forehead, just like moving around like your eyebrows. Thank God we're not a visual medium, but I'm actually like I was straight up like mime doing that with my hands, like my face, and like looking in the reflection of my other like my powered off computer screen to show myself doing that, and I could see it working. Like it would be an interesting visual for a monster to have like eyebrows that are made of a fingernail. Or a finger, using a single digit of a finger to like move around, like to do your expressions.
Mm-hmm.
You're not wrong in that. It is a creepy visual.
Just a shame that creepy visual isn't actually in the story.
Yeah.
All right. The next thing here for the pathologist. A vermilion line dripped down from his goggles, spotted his face mask, and splattered his apron. So I did a quick search of vermilion line, and I got basically what's called a vermilion border, which is the top of your upper lip where your lip meets the skin. So the visual that you get is that his vermilion line is right up next to the bottom of his goggles.
Okay.
So he has no nose.
The thing is, though, I think in this instance, again, I know you're being critically silly, but I have to point this out.
I don't know if he is anymore.
I think what the descriptor is that a vermilion line in this case is just like a red line as like the blood drips drips down the visor or whatever protective gear, because vermilion, I believe, is a type of red.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's just being wordy with the color red, I believe.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, it's using very very fancy anachronistic words.
Yeah.
For certain things.
Just both unfortunate and fortunate that vermilion line, quote unquote, is an actual thing, apparently.
Yep.
Yeah, exactly.
Which makes it doubly confusing.
Well, again, that also makes sense because like I could see that why it would make but at the same time, yeah.
It's just doubling down that this dude's a freaking monster now.
Mm-hmm.
To get fingers for eyebrows, his lips are directly underneath his eyes.
Hmm. And the last note I have here for him is that his eyes.
I need to draw him, by the way.
His
I
eyes.
probably will.
Sorry, please continue.
His eyes were just whites.
So yeah, now he's pupilless. Yep.
Or his eyes are made up of just a whole bunch of like shrunk down white people.
No.
They're just whites.
No.
Why not?
I'm not getting into this.
All right, fine.
All right. So continuing on.
Yeah.
So with Victoria, she has potentially a life-giving electrical touch and exploding fingertips.
Yeah, that's also true about like when she like pulled her finger out of the body and there's like a popping like kind of there's already kind of a reaction to that or like a Yeah. So she's got like some kind of like electrical power.
Yeah. And yeah, the one point Victoria felt her blood rush from her head. Her fingertips exploded.
So just to I've been full disclosure, I've been watching a lot of My Hero Academia. So her quirk is finger guns.
No, they're not shooting. They're exploding.
Hand explosions.
Yeah.
So she's got different settings. So electricity.
Yeah, exactly. Combustion, like frag grenade.
Yeah, it's weird.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it says right after that, she recovered in seconds and remembered properly.
Okay, so
I'm sure you're not going to recover quickly from your fingers exploding. I'm just saying.
Well, again, maybe that's part of her quirk. She's got she's got nitroglycerin in the sweat. Her sweat, the sweat of her hands or her fingers are nitroglycerin, like Bakugo from My Hero Academia. So he can create she can create explosions on her hands, but the problem is that they explode like the flesh as well, and it takes and she needs some time to regenerate her fingers.
Yeah, like a second.
Yeah.
Seconds later.
Well, I mean, maybe it's like she only uses a little bit amount. Like it's not that like for the smaller things it regenerates fast, but if it's like she uses too much, her whole hand is like just a stump, and she has to like have it regrow again.
The problem is, it's not saying a explosion happens in front of her fingertips. It's the fingertips themselves explode.
Yeah, I get that.
Down
Yeah.
to the first knuckle is what I assumed.
That's what you assume, but you know what that means.
Yeah, they need to reword the sentence. That's what that means.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah. But my whole problem with this is I don't even get what they're trying to convey.
I know. Same.
What actually happened? We can make as many critically silly theories as we want, but what actually happened? I don't know.
Hang on. Let me quickly go to that section of the story just so I can reread that. Just give me a hot minute here.
I can just read it.
Okay, that helped too. Yeah.
Cool. Victoria felt her blood rush from her head. Her fingertips exploded. She clenched her hand and crumbled into the other man in scrubs. She recovered in seconds and remembered properly. Okay,
so I think what happened is that for somehow she got an electrical shock or like a static shock. You know how like if you like sometimes somebody touches you, you get a shock from that.
Yeah.
I think so. Basically, the explosion in her fingertips was just her nerve endings going off like at the tips of her fingers, as if from like a static shock, and like the blood rushing from her head and some of that was like maybe she was having some kind of like weird, like some kind of weird like distasted or disgusted reaction to the body. So like her like
I don't
the blood
she's
was
disgusted by it. She's in the whole
I know,
mortuary thing.
But I think like I mean,
okay,
still like
let me cut you off real quick.
Hang on, please. Like, I think it's that it's like there are still like no matter how fascinated you are with death, there are still like bodily functions that like that rebel against your brain. Like, if you see a dead body, your body might is still physically going to react in some way. So,
I suppose I don't know many morticians, so I can't say one way or another.
Yeah.
However, with the way that you started explaining that, where it literally just a very strong static shock. So she got shocked, and then the explosion on her fingertips is literally just like the intense, like stinging of a shock, but said in a very flowery way to the point of being confusing. And then she clenched her hand and fell on the other guy because it hurt her hands. And then that's it. What's the remembering thing? That part I don't remember.
A what?
The last part. She recovered in seconds and remembered. It's not even properly. It's proprietary. What's this word? I'm gonna paste it.
Hang on. Where is it?
I'll paste it.
Okay.
Bleh, bleh, bleh. Yeah.
Oh, remember propriety.
Yeah.
Propriety.
I'll put it in here anyways.
Hang on. I'm gonna Google propriety.
Google that, sir. Hang on a minute, everybody.
Propriety.
State or quality. Okay, go ahead.
No, it's your thing. You can do it.
Fine. The state or quality of conforming to conventionally accepted standards of behavior or morals.
Okay, so she's like, she fell back, crumpled into her mentor, the pathologist, and then realized that like that wasn't like she had to like kind of like basically it's like she tried to she recovered her posture, her how she's supposed to react in this kind of situation, which is more of one of like not distress. Like she's trying to compose herself is what it sounds like it's trying to convey. Maybe
so it's not a pain through a shock.
No,
it is now.
No, she's recovering from the shock that she was given from her finger, but also like trying to recover her composure as a person who works at a morgue. So I think that's what it is. But again, like we've been saying throughout the story, it's not conveyed very well.
Whether or not you work at a morgue or not, if you get a very powerful electric shock on your hand, it's going to be a natural response to cling to your hand and stumble back into something. That's completely reasonable.
No,
and conforms to conventionally accepted standards of behavior. So she doesn't need to remember that.
Yeah, but I think she was trying to like, like she was trying to be like respectful to her to the pathologist, who's like an older mentor character to her. So she like tried to like back away from that and like be more like try and maintain her or get her composure back. That's all I'm like.
Long story short, composure is a better word.
Yes, thank you.
There you go.
Mikey, do you have any more?
Yes. So the next part for Victoria is just grasping at straws. She could also be partially made out of elastic because the flesh was cold and spongy. It lacked the smooth elasticity of her own.
Because human skin has an elasticity that corpses don't.
Again,
critically silly.
I know. I keep forgetting about it. I'm sorry.
And then she might also have claws because
she's clawing away at the.
Get angry now.
I'm gonna just mute myself because I'm just gonna keep rebelling against critically silliness.
So the quote here is that she tore her face mask loose and shredded her apron. She widened the neckline of her scrubs. She still couldn't breathe. She clawed at her bare neck before collapsing on the slab. So, yeah. She might have claws.
Yeah,
that's
sure.
Funny.
This is really just the mortician, the county morgue for the SNTF.
You made it SNTF. You did it.
It's a brain virus, guys. You guys have infected me with that brain virus.
Yes.
All right.
It's working, Mikey.
Sweet. All right. So that's all I have for Victoria there. And then my last note about monsters here is that the corpse is also a monster.
Yep.
So they're actually playing a prank on Victoria, and the prank goes horribly wrong when she continues with the shears,
which would definitely increase the connectivity between the urban legend mentioned earlier and this instance.
Yeah. And the corpse was just going to say, like, fooled you, but, the pathologist puts his bloody red hand on her because she's killed him. And that's why she has a whole breathing fit at the end, because she has the realization that she killed one of the other students, basically.
Yeah. Like, this is her, first day. Because it seemed like this was also, it kind of seemed in the story that this was, one of her early days working at this morgue. But, it's definitely, a prank gone horribly wrong in monster morgue tech.
Yeah. And then, so that's it for my sort of critically silliness. The only other note I have here is something that's been sort of talked about over and over, is that the author seems to be using a lot of words to describe things, but they're falling flat, or
they're almost a little too flowery, maybe?
Well, it's like they're using this word and that word, and all just because it means what they think it means based on the thesaurus, but it doesn't actually pan out.
Yeah. It's like a young kid using big words that they've learned, but not understanding the context to use them, or when to use them in dialogue or in a sentence structure.
Yeah.
That word, I don't think it means what you think it means.
Exactly.
Or whatever that quote is.
Yeah, inconceivable. You use that word again. I do not think you know what it means. Inconceivable.
Yeah, and that's the end of my actual thoughts.
All right. Gamer.
My first one is on how it starts. Very start of the story is the favorite urban legend of the mortuary school was the drunken student in the morgue. So it kind of feels like we need a couple of lines before this, because just like something to introduce the school and what it's about. It kind of set me for a couple of loops when I was reading it. And this is how. I read Mortuary School, and at first I thought that it was just a normal school that's called Mortuary, like a public school or a high school, which I thought the name was odd for that, but I moved on because it's just the start of the story. I wanted to get through a sentence first. But then it brought up that it has a morgue, and that just made me confused. So I went back and read it all. But
do you not know what a mortuary is?
What?
Do you know what a mortuary is, right?
Can I finish my thoughts?
I'm sorry.
I'm just saying, the way it's laid out, it was kind of confusing. But either way, where the fuck was I? So, it being a public or high school was reinforced with the next line that said either a student or a local boy, depending on the version. So, calling a person or a student a local boy put this character in the age of 5 to 17 in my head. Like, because if you're old enough to be like going to an actual mortuary school, you're not a boy anymore. You're a man.
Or you're a young man.
Yeah, but regardless, no one calls you a boy unless you're that dude from that movie who yells "boy" at everyone.
That's also that the tall man.
Yeah.
or Kratos from the newest God of War game is like boy.
I mean, he's actually a child.
Dad of boy.
He's actually a boy though. That's fine.
That's fair, yeah.
Also,
or old people like call younger dudes like boy, just as like as a what's the word as a not a contrary thing. It's as a demeaning kind of term.
Yeah, but this narrator has no personality. It's just a narrator of no name.
That's fair. It could also be a regional dialect, because if it's in Ichor Falls, it's in Virginia. So, like, hey, boy, you want to help us with this thing? Like, to completely alienate our West Virginia folks, or listeners.
Well done. You did it.
Yay.
Anyway, I'll continue. So, through all my confusions, I reread the whole, like, first couple of bits, because right from the start, I was just confused.
Yeah.
And the problem I found is I feel like the school needs a name. Especially if it's going to be the main focus of the story. If it was like Carcosa Mortuary School, for example, then
badass.
It makes it clear and as day that the mortuary is the type of school and not the name. And it should have a name because it's where we are.
Yeah, and it would also give it would actually be building on Ichor Falls, in that Ichor Falls, because I'm assuming this is all all these submitted stories are somewhere around Ichor Falls, because why else are they being submitted to the Ichor Falls community site?
And because nothing's being named, they're not adding to the lore of Ichor Falls at all.
Exactly. Like it's not just called or it could be called the Ichor Falls Mortuary School.
Yeah.
Or
if it said that, it's like, okay, great. It's a mortuary school in Ichor Falls. Cool.
Also,
but it's just weirdly named. Yeah.
Sorry, not to cut you off. But like also like, because I remember in Ichor Falls, all the districts are named after Greek, like Greek things, like Elysium, Elysia, like Olympian, like kind of thing. So you could have this one be like the Tartarus mortuary school, or Stygian or Stygia mortuary school. Like, and it's in like it's like a Greek, like a Greek term for the dead, like for like one of the different, like for one of the places of the dead.
Yeah, exactly. Perfect.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Because when you're mentioning a place, you don't usually just, when you're trying to describe a place and make it part of a story and everything, and add it to the lore of Ichor Falls like this, it needs to have a name. Otherwise, it's just bland.
Yeah. Oh,
just
or like
the mortuary school,
Cerberus mortuary school, or Hades mortuary school.
All very good possibilities that could have been taken but weren't.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Or the Styx mortuary school.
Yeah, STYX.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame the river, like the part of the Ohio River that goes through. I think it's the Ohio River. I might be wrong, but the big river that goes through there. It's a shame that section of the river isn't just called the river, like the Styx River.
Why?
Because of all the other Greek names they use in the story,
Oh,
in
yeah.
the town.
It'd be nice.
Yeah.
Anyway, we'll move on from that.
Mhm.
My next one is in regards to not noticing that he's alive and everything. So there's many variations on the ending. This is still talking about the actual myth.
Yeah.
In some, he wakes up right before the first incision. So these people are students who are people who are at least somewhat. No, they have to be rather interested and knowledgeable in corpses to already be a student.
Yeah.
And probably the teachers there too. But none of them know the difference between a dead body and a guy that's sleeping. I'll tell you the difference. One's breathing and probably snoring, because people tend to snore when they're sleeping somewhere unfamiliar or uncomfy.
My counter to that, even experts or professionals, like forensic people, can get that wrong. Like there are real world accounts in from the turn of the century to the modern day of people saying someone's dead when they're actually just like so drunk they're passed out. They're so drunk they're passed out and they don't even seem like they're alive. But like if they can't get the pulse, then people have mistaken a drunken passed out person for a dead body. In reality,
They don't breathe at all, and there's no heartbeat at all.
It's honestly just a hiccup on the person who caused the death. Like it happens, man. Like people get buried alive. Like there are real cases where people get buried alive because of that mistake. So
I can't believe that.
But
like, I'm sure you're right.
I can send you evidence. I will Google it right now.
Oh, well, you can Google anything and you'll find truth on it, quote unquote. It's the internet.
It's literally accounts, like actual accounts of people being buried alive because they were. Yeah, okay. But
yeah, I get back in like the old West and shit, people getting buried alive because we don't have modern technologies and everything, but it just seems weird in the modern day that it can happen still.
Well, maybe that's when this urban legend came out of, was like from like the turn of the century. Because like turn of the century wasn't that long. It was only 100 years ago, and that was like when like a lot of these like our modern science, like our modern like beneficial practices and stuff like that, like the ones that are not like horrendous, only really kind of came to be in like the 70s.
Yeah.
So like even as late as the 70s, I could see, or even maybe even into the 80s, I could see this happening. Unfortunately, on the regular.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I know it's hard to tell, it's hard to think that like that would happen, but yeah, man, that happens.
I suppose. But anyway, moving on.
Yeah.
So at the end of the urban legend, it's talking about how in the dark stories, no one notices that he's still alive, and then it cuts down to Victoria felt the ridges of the staples, blah 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 blah. And as soon as that happened,
Yeah.
I'm like, who are you? Are we in the pre-story still, or are we switching to a new story? Because at this point, it keeps flip-flopping. At least it did for the bit, because it ends saying in the dark ones, no one ever notices. Then it's like Victoria felt the ridges of the staples and the cadavers through the fingers of her latex glove, a big cross the man's chest. One of the problems with the myth, then it immediately goes back to the myth that the school has no problem with reusing a cadaver on newbies. So because it's flip-flopping, it was a really muddy transition, if it was even meant to be a transition.
I think it was, but like I think all of us can agree that this is like the worst segue ever.
Yep.
Yeah. One of the wheels is falling off and like the battery's dead. It's not very good.
Controls are like just really crapping out.
Yeah. And then moving on here. Hang on. All right, okay. This is in regards to the body. Were the staples from the original autopsy or a subsequent? Hard to tell. The students observed one, but they never actually perform. The man's toe tag reads Robin Smith. Must have died from embarrassment of his name. So I have multiple questions from that. First off, the students observed one what?
okay, so I had the hiccup with this as well, and I came to the conclusion while I was reading it a second time that it was the they've observed an autopsy, but because that's not in there, you can see why you'd get confused by after talking about the staples, or about staples not being put into the body multiple times, and then like the students observing one or something before, as like what?
No, it says the students observed one. Like, it's talking in the present now.
Yeah.
If it's saying some of the students remember previous autopsies, then fine. But just the way it's worded, I was very confused.
Mhm.
As was I.
And then the next one, never perform what?
Never
So
performed
an
an
autopsy,
autopsy.
I guess?
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, I think that's where I meant, like where the autopsy would go. Yeah, it's this story misses a lot of words.
So I guess the way it should be is kind of like this. With these staples from the original autopsy or a subsequent, hard to tell. The students there, the students have observed previous autopsies, but they never actually performed any of those autopsies on this cadaver.
Yeah.
I believe that's what it's trying to say.
Yeah. Also, it shouldn't be. Is it students? Because so far, if this is Victoria's thing, it's just a pathologist and Victoria at a county morgue, like at a job, not at the mortuary. She's not even at the mortuary school anymore, or is she?
I'm assuming she is.
Because like it talks later, like when she's talking about the shears and how like they all look like plain garden tools and stuff, and how a morgue should be able to afford better equipment, except maybe not a county morgue. Like I was still left confused. Like, are we even in the mortuary school at this point, or is she just like a freshman at like? Is this her like internship, or like her her new job that she's just come out of mortuary school and now she's at a county morgue like working? Like,
I have no idea. I don't have that answer.
I think that's the key issue here, is that there's not enough information.
Yeah. It just like gives us little drip feeds of information, but not enough to actually formulate an entire thought or understand what's going on.
Yeah.
And the last bit with that string of sentences is, what's wrong with the name Robin Smith?
I know, right?
Why would he have to die of embarrassment from that name?
Like, maybe if it was John Smith, because John Smith is like the most generic name ever. But
is it because it's a guy named Robin and they're saying, oh, that's a girl's name, you should be embarrassed?
Which,
no, it's not.
Yeah, no, it's very it's very like,
yeah,
like
that's probably it.
kind of thing. Like,
I don't get this narrator.
I don't get that reaction, but okay.
Yeah. Also, I don't know if that was a thought of Victoria or just the narrator suddenly having some character.
I think it was supposed to be sorry, something in my throat. Oh god.
It is after Victoria's mentioned.
Yeah, I think it's supposed to be Victoria's thought, not the narrator's, but there's no indicator for it, so yeah. Like, I don't even think it was italics, right?
No.
Yeah, so
no. Yeah, a lot of things need to be changed in that paragraph.
I think this whole story needs to be like reworked and like looked at.
Spoilers, but yes. But moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria replied, "It was just ellipses, the smell. Yeah. How long has this stiff been laying around?" The pathologist cocked a perfectly manicured eyebrow at her. He shook his head and took the hedge clippers from the tray. Okay, so this character is just refusing to answer her? She just asked a question.
Mm-hmm.
What a dick.
Yep.
Moving on. While her back was turned, he took the first plunge. Isn't this the second plunge? Because it said earlier to get her away from the cadaver when he first plunged the tip of the snipers in above the groin.
Yep.
So is this? Yeah,
he needs to continue the plunge, not start the plunge anew.
Unless the first one was meant to say, "I'm going to get her away before I do my first plunge."
Yeah.
And then, here we go, here's the first plunge.
Yeah. Oh god, so much blood.
Yeah. Why did I plunge? Moving on. She heard the blade slurp when he swung open the maw.
The
I
maw,
thought,
as in the. I think the maw is supposed to be like the crisscross like cut on the body from previous.
anyways,
Sorry.
I thought he was making an incision above the groin. There's no maw there. Maw being a jaw, to my knowledge. I
A
thought
maw
that's
can.
the
Sorry.
only word for that.
Well,
A maw can also be a descriptor for like a gaping opening. And
You sure about that?
Yep. And like like a cave maw. And I think what they again, it's another issue with this story where like the writer is using a word like because it's fancy. I think what they were trying to use for that word is maybe to convey that like the like once the all the staples are cut or removed, they open up the flaps, it will look like a giant gaping like maw in the chest of this person. But again, using fancy words and nothing else, like and no actual context to it, kind of ruins the story.
Mm-hmm. Like if it said it opened up the body like a maw, fine.
Yeah,
If it said opened up the maw specifically.
That's what I think it's trying to like say, but it's not executing it properly.
More words.
Yep.
I figured it out. The corpse is actually the corpse of the Maw, which is a video game which has a creature called the Maw.
Oh my god, you're right.
There's a video game called The Maw?
Yeah, there is.
Okay.
Well, now we know what the corpse looks like.
See, all I think of is the Maw from the movie The Thing, like the John Carpenter movie, where like they try to like bring the guy back to life with a defibrillator, only to realize too late that the person who's like that they're trying to revive is actually the Thing, and so its stomach opens up like a jagged maw, and like the guy's like hands and the defibrillators go into the maw, and then it crunches down on his arms.
Sounds about right.
Yeah, that's all. That's what I kept visualizing with this.
I'll link you a picture of the maw.
Okay.
Horrifying. You ready?
Mm-hmm.
How dare you? I was in the middle of doing what I just said.
That is kind of terrifying. I'm not gonna lie. For the audience at home,
I'm about to link the picture. You do it too.
For the audience at home, it is in fact a one-eyed, no-armed, purple people eater.
Yeah, it actually is. You're right.
I don't think that's actually how the song lyrics goes, but it's a one-eyed, purple, assumedly people eater.
I don't fully remember.
I think it's flying.
Oh, flying purple people eater. Yeah.
I think it was one-horned as well. Regardless.
One-eyed, flying purple people eater. Yeah. But it has no horns.
It doesn't fly.
Yeah.
And possibly is a vegetarian. Moving on.
I don't think it's a vegetarian by the looks of those rows of sharp teeth there, gamer.
You say that, but...
You haven't played the game. That's what you're going to say, right?
What?
That's what you were going to say. It's like, you haven't played the game yet.
You have you?
No, I haven't.
I played a beta back when, or a demo back when that game was about to come out, and I remember nothing of it.
Anyway, moving right along. What else do you got?
Actually, I remember the main character was a alien that wore a yellow jumpsuit and looked cool because it was yellow. Moving on.
Review called us left the party.
Cool. So a Vermilion line talking about all that. The one part I forgot to bring up when you were mentioning the look of this guy, when he said he has his eyes were just white and bare spots on his forehead between the splotches of blood were ashen. So it kind of sounds like at least to me, as soon as this was described, that the pathologist is an undead of some kind. Like he has a gray skin with like pure white eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Unless he was trying to describe the corpse.
I think it might have been trying to describe maybe again.
I don't know at this point.
I don't, Also, when you said on the bare spot I was like on his chest, I was like, oh god, no, he's gonna bring up like that some kind of Ursine creature.
Hey now.
You're a rock star. Get your game on. Go play.
Thanks, me.
You're welcome, Ace.
I'm glad I've made you start doing that.
Again, you guys have infected me with some fucking brain virus.
Yes.
Uh,
But moving on. I got a few more. The blood on the floor soaks through the baggies right down to her socks when she approached the body. So how much damn blood is spewing into this body, by the way? It's kind of ridiculous.
Yeah, also, if they're plastic baggies, they don't soak through.
No, there's that much blood.
No, that's not how plastic works.
Shut up. You're right. Stop being right. But regardless, just why? Unless there's so much blood that it's above the top of the baggie, so it's soaking down through the seam. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's just so much blood in this body, even though it's had multiple autopsies. It's like a cartoony amount of blood.
Yeah, well, it's almost like it's like some kind of weird supernatural thing or something. But yeah, like I don't even think a human body has that much blood.
Hell no. It's freaking ridiculous. Like, I just kind of laughed at that point. Like, it's trying to be this really weird scene or whatever that's scary because blood.
It is visceral. It is. Yeah. It is. It's like the scene from Nightmare. I kind of got a visual of like similar to the scene from Nightmare on Elm Street, where the one character, while he's like dreaming in his bed, Freddy Krueger like pulls him down through the bed, and then like seconds later, just this fountain of blood just splashes across the ceiling. Like that's how much blood is just geysering up from the hole in the bed.
Yeah.
Like that's the visual I was kind of getting a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah. And that's the thing. You brought up dreams, and if she's just freaking out and dreaming all of this, then that's totally fine. But if this is actually happening, I want to know why.
Exactly. The ending. That's why, like at the ending, like we need to elaborate on what's going on here. Like we need to kind of like have a moment where it's the reveal actually happens as to why this is all going on, not just this weird shit happens. Finn.
Yeah, that's kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Moving on.
Mm-hmm.
Victoria furrowed her blood-spattered brow and closed the scissors. The cadaver was split down the middle. Yeah? You cut a human body in half with garden shears? Like, sideways along the waist? Through the bone and everything? Is that what happened?
I mean, it was already pre-cut, so yeah. Or supposed to.
You can't cut through bone. Just one shot with garden shears.
That's the thing. It was already established that the corpse had been used a couple of times over. Maybe?
I just don't get what it's trying to say here. If it's saying that she closed the scissors for some reason, it didn't do anything because, like, whatever. But the way it's said, it's almost like she wrapped the scissors around the waist of this thing and cut it in half like a fatality.
No.
Split down the middle.
Yeah, split down the middle, as in like down, like from the groin to the gullet, like to the basically vertically. From the groin to the vertically, yeah.
Okay, but what does closing the shears have anything to do with it then?
I think her work is done. She closed the shears.
Or it's the act of using the shears, so it's closing them to finish the thing.
Yeah, or that.
I don't know.
Okay.
It's just, again, as I'll say, I could put as a short form to all of my notes, it's worded weird. I don't understand.
And I completely agree.
Mm-hmm. But thankfully, here's my last one.
We totally agree on things? What?
Yeah, it's weird. Here's my last one. She knocked him flat on the ground when she withdrew the scissors. Well, first of all, that seems weird now that I'm thinking about it. So if it's a vertical slash on the dude, the first guy was already cutting up to make the vertical slash, she closed the scissors, so there's no resistance on the scissors anymore, but which would make them come out really easy, right? So why did the scissors have like so much resistance that she couldn't pull them out anymore?
I don't know what to tell
Right.
you, man.
She was suffocating because
Yeah.
reasons.
Yeah.
She tore her face mask loose and shredded her apron for reasons.
Well, okay, at that point, I think her suffocation was actually just like she was hyperventilating, like she was like panicking and such. I think that's what it was trying to say. That's my short for my stuff. I think that's what it was. It's trying to say things, but not doing it well.
Yeah. Just that whole ending. Just I don't understand what was going on and why. And
Yeah, and it ends just abruptly. So
no, it doesn't end. It stops. Don't give it credit.
sorry. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yes, I'm sorry. It just stops.
Yes.
It stops abruptly. It doesn't even end.
Yeah. No bueno.
Mm-hmm. So is that it?
Go ahead and move on.
All
yes.
Right. Well, I guess that's a good enough segue to our final thoughts. So and then we just stopped. Yeah, I need a lot more for this story before I ever recommend it. It's got an interesting core concept, like a core idea that I think I gleaned from reading this, but the execution is lacking. Like it needs to be looked at again. And like some things need to be added in, need to be fixed, repaired. I liked the core idea of like, I guess a new person from a mortuary story going to a morgue, thinking on like a past urban legend, and then having that urban legend kind of come into play on their like first day on the job is kind of the inkling I got for a core concept for this story. But the execution is terrible. I'm sorry. So that's I don't recommend it. Is my final thoughts. So, Mikey, your move.
All right. So, yeah, I don't recommend it either. Even with the Supernatural Task Force Mortuary School that Review Cultist brought up, I can only...
I mean, you helped. You started it.
Yeah. Well, it was a monster school type thing.
Mm-hmm.
I can only give it a partial recommendation with that. I can't go full-blown recommendation.
Yeah. Fair.
So.
It's a sad state of events when even the world of the SNTF can't save it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's the first time that even an SNTF tie-in doesn't give you a full recommendation.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the biggest thing is the whole using fancy words and then not describing things well enough to give a good visual of what's going on.
Yeah. It's just a very confusing mess. Okay. Then I guess it's on to Gamer.
I loved it. It was fantastic. No.
Don't even
stop lying. No, I can't do that.
So there's a lot of corrections that need to be made for this for me to recommend it. Like if it was completely rewritten to make all the things it's trying to get across readable and the story concise and everything, then I might enjoy it. But in its current state, I can't recommend it. Some of the concepts are just, and visuals are just plain out silly, like the blood on the floor, like the room is watertight, for example.
Blood.
Yeah, I read the story, and like even though I read the story, I was confused on multiple occasions as to what was trying to be told to me.
Yeah.
Not having a break between the myth and the other story was annoying. Like the flow sucked. The ending was confusing. I didn't understand it. It seems like Victoria was like tripping out on some drugs or something, and the other guy was just frozen in place, and the whole thing was a dream. And if that was the case, fine. But I'd like to know if that's the case.
Yeah. It you know what it felt like? It to me, I think what it might have been was just the writer wrote a bunch of disparate scenes of horror, but didn't connect them very well.
I guess.
Yeah.
Just like the way it is,
you almost don't even need the myth at the start. It has really
No.
nothing to do with the rest of the story.
Yeah. Like,
Yep.
the only tangential link is that the corpse reacts when they try to open it up, like in that urban legend that she was
But did
thinking
it?
about prior. But well,
But
it was
did
screaming.
it?
It was screaming.
But did it actually? Is what I'm trying to get
Well, we
at.
don't know.
Listen, there's cartoony amounts of blood.
Yeah.
The pathologist literally froze in place, like she's in a
I would
dream
too.
and tripping out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if any of that actually happened.
Well, that's the thing, because it ends so abruptly or it stops so abruptly. Sorry for my correction there. But we don't get the full context to the story, like, and it's just like, well, it's up to you now, reader. It's like, no, I reject your reality. Like, I would like to know more before I make any kind of conclusions myself.
The only way I can rationalize the story is intro is this is the myth that everyone knows. It's everyone's favorite myth at the school.
Yeah.
So this girl Victoria, she's down there with a pathologist and the body, and she's thinking about the myth, and it makes her daydream basically.
Yeah.
And in her daydream, she sees him freeze. She sees all the blood come out, and like in her dream, she's walking up to help or something, but she's actually doing it in real life, like a sleepwalking situation. And when she pulls the shears out, she like knocks him back and everything. But he doesn't actually wake up. The entire creepiness of this is she's implanting that into reality just by daydreaming it because she's thinking about the myth.
Yeah. Honestly, it would have been better. I'm just looking at the spot where it like tries to segue to Victoria from the urban legend. It's like, in the dark ones, in the dark ones, no one ever notices. ... Victoria pondered this urban legend as she felt the ridges of the staples in the cadaver through the fingers of her latex gloves. Like, Like, you just need that a few extra words to help segue that better.
Yeah, that would be just that little bit of change. Made that like a perfect transition.
Mm-hmm. But like instead, we just got this weird, like, disjointed, like, combination of two sentences, like immediately jumping out of one story into another.
And then back into the other one for a second before you actually stay in the Victoria one. It's too jumpy.
Yep.
But at that point, I don't even know why this story is called Victoria. When the whole thing, it's not even really about Victoria. It's about the myth.
Yeah. It honestly would have been better if it had been called The Cadaver.
Yeah.
Or the or morgue duty, or like morgue studies, maybe even.
Or like the cadaver that wouldn't die, or something, you know.
or a mortuary urban legend.
Yeah, just anything except for Victoria.
Yeah, because Victoria is the main character, kind of, in that it seems like it's trying to focus on her, but I feel like if it was to end properly, it would have like basically gone into like that Victoria was having some like massive like hallucinations on account of like sleep deprivation from all her studies and working a second job, working this job on top of her studies, or doing this internship thing. And so like all of the like, and basically like we're suddenly in a crime scene, like after she collapses on the slab, and like, yeah, Victoria's been like put been arrested for the murder of the pathologist, because this whole time all the blood was actually coming from the mortician, or from the pathologist, and it was all in her head that everything else she saw. Like I think that's how a better story would have told that, or would have concluded it. I feel like this is the worst. I feel like this is the heaviest handed we've ever gone on a story. Like, just
we were pretty heavy handed with Spyro. There's
we
a reason
were,
that
we did crucify. We do have a title card. Yeah, we do have a title card where we crucify Spyro. But yeah, I feel like this one is definitely one up there with the ones that we have like hammered on most, because there's just so much like broken potential. Like to the core of the story, and it's just like we're from every paragraph we are just left in a confused state reading this. And I actually read through the comments of this one, and a lot of people share those kind of like opinions on this. It's just like a lot of fancy words that I don't think would work that well. A lot of confusion with the writing. So yeah, I think we're not alone in like our critique of this story. I on the one side, I feel bad about critiquing it this heavily, but at the same time, it has to be done for the sake of telling a good story. So
the idea of a good story is there.
Yeah.
It's just the way it's portrayed. It's so muddy that it's hard to get a feel for what the actual intent of the story was meant to be.
Yeah.
And that's the real problem.
Indeed.
I like the idea of the story. It's just the execution is not very good. And back to the name for a second. It's like if I Dared My Best Friend to Ruin My Life was called Xander. Like, not even David motherfucking King. Xander. Like the name of the main character.
Yeah. It's about the victim in that story. Yeah.
Yeah. It just doesn't work.
Yeah. As much as we scoff at Reddit No Sleep sentence titles. Sometimes
options.
Yeah, there are also always options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But to wrap up my conclusion, for a first stop back into Ichor Falls, it feels like I showed up in town, got arrested, beat up in my holding cell, had a cavity search, and when I got back to my car, it was on blocks. Just like the worst way to be brought back into town. So thank you.
You're welcome. I'm not gonna lie. I was like, oh, this one's gonna be this one will probably be pretty short because this is like a mini pasta or so. No, there's a lot wrong with this one. Like, it's sort of the nature of the beast when you're Russian rouletting it.
Yeah.
But yeah, here's hoping the next one will be a little bit more comprehensive. So, yeah, I think that's a good kind of like the roundup for this one is like we were very heavy-handed because this story was just very confusing for how long how little it spent with us, because like it would be as if like you walked into you drove into Ichor Falls, like you said there, gamer, and but like you just went to the local gas station to take a piss, got beaten the shit up by some local guys. The cops sided with them, and you ended up getting like sent to like the local jail. And then they did a cavity search and all that stuff. And then when you finally got back to your car, it had been towed back, and like there were cinder blocks on the tires. Like,
or it's towed back to the same like garage that you stopped at to take a pee. And those guys are still there to beat you up again.
Exactly. Yeah, it's like you were there for like a short time, but man, was that like a grueling short time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The main reason that I went heavy-handed on this personally is because I really like Ichor Falls, and I want this to be good, and I see the story that's trying to be portrayed, and I want that to be good. So that's why I'm like pointing out everything wrong with it that I found that confused me, and things that I wish was better, because I like Ichor Falls.
No, that's 100%. That's the way to go. Is like we're not being critically. We're throughout, despite our critically silliness throughout our discussion, we are critiquing this constructively because and as heavy-handedly as we are, because we want it to be better.
Yes. And because the idea of the story is good.
Yeah. So I guess that's our final thoughts. Would not recommend. But gosh darn it, we want the core concept was cool, but we wish it was more coherent.
I would recommend a rewrite by the author.
Yes.
If he would so choose.
Yeah. Even though it's been almost 10 years or 11 years.
You never know. We're here to make a difference.
Yeah. So that was this week's episode. If you like what you heard, or if you didn't, leave us a comment in the comment section below where this is posted, whether it be on Podbean, Facebook, YouTube, or Tumblr. You can also talk to us on Twitter. Mikey is at the E stands for evil. The Gamer in Yellow is at the Gamer in Yellow without that W because his name is too damn long.
For the glory of the king.
And I'm at Review Cultist. And you can also send us emails. Go to aldenterigamortis@gmail.com. That's ALDENTERIGAMORTIS@gmail.com, where you can also leave us suggestions for other creepypastas you'd like us to discuss on the show, or SCP entries, or spooky tales from the internet somewhere. Please let us know if you have something that we haven't covered yet and you'd like us to have a discussion of. And if you'd like to help support us financially, you can go to Patreon. Look up Al Dente Rigor Mortis on Patreon and select the backer tier you'd like to support us at. We have $2 and $5 tier currently with special episodes, early access, extra content. For our patrons that are already helping support the show, thank you guys immensely because you're helping keep those hosting bills at bay. And as always, we very much appreciate that. And to the listeners of our show and the writers of these stories, thank you guys immensely because seriously, without your listenership, we wouldn't have much of a show. And without your stories and creations on the internet to talk about, we definitely wouldn't have much of a show. So thank you. Until next time, I have been your host, Review Cultist.
I'm Mikey. The E stands for evil.
And I'm the Gamer in Yellow.
And here's hoping the rest of our drive through Ichor Falls will be a little bit more coherent. Until then, this has been Al Dente Rigor Mortis. Sleep well.